So last video we were talking about reusing animation, and I went and I did some cleanup, and I believe I posted that video. So just check the YouTube channel, see if you can find it somewhere. And it's probably the last video if you're curious. But I took the whole of the hierarchy for the steam, and then I duplicated it and pasted it into the group where the dad is. So you can see there's a peg, and then there's artwork underneath that. There's a peg and artwork underneath that, and there's 2 layers to that. The benefit is that I can control them independently, which is pretty cool, right? I think so. And it also means that if I decided to later, I can use that however I want to use it. The benefit of putting it on pegs too is that if whatever reason I decided I wanted to move it or rotate it in any way, that I would be able to do it fairly easy and effectively. So if you see those boxes there, those boxes are for the group, for the mom and the dad. And those are strictly just for organizing. So I can easily get through the timeline and just look at the artwork for just the dad, or look at just the artwork for the mom. And also just the hierarchy and anything associated with just the dad and the mom, I'll put them underneath that group. Just to make finding things quicker. If you don't want to use the groups, you don't have to. If you just want to put it on a peg and, open and close the pegs as well. I mean, you could organize however you want to organize. It's up to you. But I like to use the groups. It makes it easier to see things for me. So now take a look at this. So I've got the dad in this group by itself, and then this is all the stuff associated with the steam. So what I want to do now is I want to go and clean up the hierarchy for the dad and put all this stuff on pegs, so that if I decide to do some keyframe animation on there, I can. I don't always do animation necessarily, but I mean, what I'm saying is I don't necessarily plan on animating all the parts of this, but it takes like, man, I can't even count the seconds on how fast it is to select all that, Control-Shift-P and make a peg for every single one of these layers. And it'll already have the name associated from the artwork underneath it. Oh my goodness, right? It's a super time saver because you're not having to meticulously do it. And then dragging these, the connections to the nodes is super fast too. And for me, I just like the idea of being able to visually organize things. You could do the same thing in the timeline where you can, drag and drop and connect things together. But man, I like the visual of being able to see that the head goes to the headmaster, the eyes go to the headmaster, blah, blah, blah. And there's other ways you can organize and add additional layers in there, other things, various other nodes to do different things, which in later videos, I'll probably add some additional nodes in there to do some additional things. But this is a very simple node layout. And you can see that I took that line from the steam, dragged it over, connected it to the head as well, so that the steam will constantly follow the head. And then I added like a top hierarchy for the entirety of the head. There potentially could become a point where it becomes redundant and you've got like too many layers of nodes and stuff, possibly. And from just an organizing standpoint, it becomes hard to track. But I did want to put one for the master for the body as a whole, a master for the head, a master for the body, and then independent nodes for the different parts of, the nose, the head, the face, the brows, blah, blah, blah. With the idea that I might decide to do some animation for it. Again, maybe not. But you always want to assume that I might want to animate that. I just might want to animate that. And you don't really lose anything. Like if you don't animate it, it's not the end of the world. Important save often. I'm sure I say that in every video. Like, you Control S, your arm, your hand should touch the keyboard with Control S. Like, you should be able to rock your arm back and forth to be able to do that, so that you save often and avoid the doom of, if for whatever reason your computer crashes. Sometimes you got too many things open, blah blah blah. All right, so I want to see both the mom and the dad at the same time, so I just turned on the layers for the mom so that I could see them at the same time, just so I can offset both the animation and the steam for when it billows out of the ears of the characters, that it doesn't happen at exactly the same time. Booyah. Boom. 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 And then I want to offset the animation a little bit too, so that they don't both blow their top at the same time. Which I still haven't completely decided on how I want to execute this. If I want to execute them separately, meaning that I'm going to export them as separate pieces and then import them into another tool to be able to then, export them as sprites by themselves, so that if you click on them, then trigger them independently, or if you just click in the region, that they both will, set off an animation. That I haven't decided on. More than likely, I'll probably do them separately, independently, because if you're clicking on things, you want to be able to click on lots of things or touch lots of things, so that it's not a touch it once and then they all trigger at the same time. So maybe offsetting this animation is not the most important thing in the world, but I mean, it's like it takes you seconds. And then if I decide to change my mind, I'll just collapse the whole hierarchy, just select the keys and shift them back over. No problem. So it's just some simple advanced animation tools across the top here, moving, rotating some things around. I wanted to pull the shoulders in like I did with the mom, because if you get upset, sometimes your body compresses inward. When you're just really angry, like you tuck your neck in, bring your shoulders in when you're like really kind of tense. So that's kind of the goal here, is to add that extra bit of shoulder sort of tension, angry thing, and rock the arms a little bit, pull the head down into the body a little bit more, pull the shoulders up a little bit higher, and make this thing billow out of the head. Easy. And again, like, this workflow makes it to where if you decide to change your mind about something, it's fairly quick and easy to just change the keyframe, move some stuff around. And then in this case, because I had decided that, I don't want the eyes to be static to where they only have one expression, like it's just furrow eyelids and that's it. So I decided, let me go in there and do some more drawing substitutions to add some different expressions for the eyes. Which, if I needed to, if this was longer, I could reuse those eyelids fairly easily. And because it's part of the hierarchy, it means that whenever I turn the head, I don't have to worry about redrawing anything. All I'm doing is I'm just going to go into my drawing library and say, give me that eyelid. I mean, it's so easy that why wouldn't you do it? Even if you're doing something, like hand drawn, if your character's head is not fully dimensional, and there's and I should do one later, but there's ways of kind of cheating. If you have these eyes on separate layers, that you could potentially make them look like they're turning with a head by basically just moving them and kind of scaling them to create the impression that the eyes are turning. And then you could potentially use like a cutter, which is like a way of making something transparent, and so that as the eyes turn around, the head turn with the head, you start to kind of clip them so that it looks like they're turning with the head too. I mean, there's ways you can make things look dimensional, which is maybe something I should throw out here as well. And I don't know if I have a scene where with this project where the character's head really needs to turn. And if I do find one, I'll definitely do it for this. so you can get an idea as to how it works. Because you know, the more things that you can, you know, throw in the mix in terms of cool factor, the better. You know what I mean? And hope that's always the goal for, or when you're animating something is, you know, how can I add that extra little bit of cool factor? So once I create the art, you know, the animation is setting some keyframes, playing it back, looking at it, seeing if it's moving the way that I anticipate. If I like what's happening, do I need to move keyframes around? In this case, I'm just doing all stop motion keyframes. So there's no motion frames where you see the computer doing an interpolation in between. And maybe in some later shots, I might go back and do it for this. I don't know. Right now, I like the way it looks. I like the way it moves. So I don't really want to add in the sort of smooth interpolation in between there. I like where it kind of hits the poses. So, but if you like it to be a little smoother, I mean, it's fairly easy to do. You just right click on it and change the keyframe types from stop motion keyframes to motion keyframes, and you're good. And you'll get the computer to do the in-betweens for you. But that's not what I want to do for this. So, boom. And I decided, man, I should add some sort of background to it. And more than likely, I'm probably going to do like a background pass where I'll do some reusable sort of bits that I can drop back there. So it's not just either big fields of color or even just gradations. Because, you know, having something visually to see, maybe even adding some texture, some more texture stuff in there in the background. Because just adding some sort of stuff in there to break up the space. So it's not just big areas of color. Makes for just a more pleasing composition. And I'm not even sure what I did in the sketch. I should probably look at the sketch again, because there probably was some sort of background elements or something in there to break up that space. Because you definitely want to try to frame it so visually when people look that they know where they're supposed to be looking. And I'm at this point I'm kind of using this gradation to try to frame visually where you should be looking. And I probably should have put it in the upper left corner maybe, so that you don't really look out at the screen. But I wanted to make it a slightly darker from the bottom and then a little bit brighter at the top, so we get a little bit of value shift. But I definitely need to put some love into this background, you know, because backgrounds make a difference, and it helps to inform a little bit about the characters and who they are and all sort of stuff too. So even if it's just throw some like fake portraits or something back there to break up that space and to make it more personable and less general and generic, it's probably a good idea. Glad I thought of that right now. That was awesome. I don't know, probably shouldn't have said that. But anyway, if you got questions about what's going on in this video, hit me up in the comments. You know, as usual, I always check a render preview to make sure that it looks like what I expect. But you can see right here, I'm just playing through the animation and take a look at it, see if it's what I expect. And I'm like, cool, looks like what I expect. And then just doing a little bit of organizing, clean up stuff in the timeline. Making sure the background and stuff is set the way it's supposed to. But if you got questions, hit me up. If you need an artist, animator, rigger, hit me up. Y'all know who this is. It's your boy, Grady Fun.